The latest tweets from Jon Jones further clarify what we already knew, which is he wants nothing to do with Tom Aspinall, and he is desperate to avoid him. He is desperate to run for the hills to get away from Tom Aspinall. No champion, and I've been saying this on multiple posts, in MMA history has ever gone to this extent to duck a top challenge. I know a lot of people talk about Michael Bisping ducking the entire middleweight division when he was middleweight champion. That is a fair point, but I believe this is the number one case of a champion ducking a top challenger. And the fact that this is coming from a guy who many people consider to be the GOAT of the sport is just terribly embarrassing. He says here, would you agree that it's just as selfish to have a completely healthy interim champion who is only 30 years old sitting out and waiting to fight the winner of a 42 and 36-year-old who literally actually already committed to fighting each other? No one's stopping anyone. I'm on a mission. And he says here, I'm in the middle of a pretty clear decision. Stick to exact and original plans and fight the man with all the accolades, or completely disregard all of the Stipe training. You guys can read the rest. It's absolutely ridiculous. Jon Jones is playing victim. He is so desperate to avoid Tom Aspinall. He is literally being the equivalent of a kid hiding in the corner away from the bullies, or not even bullies, just guys who want to speak to him face to face. He's like, no, I don't want this. I don't want any of this. He's hiding again in the corner. It's pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. And I do not see how people can see it as otherwise. But in this video, I'm going to go through maybe not every single tweet, because I don't really want to go through every single Jon Jones tweet this entire year, but I'm going to break down the crux of how he is so desperate to avoid Tom Aspinall, and he has been ever since Tom Aspinall started calling him out. It started off with him tweeting this when Tom Aspinall was calling for Jones to be stripped, when there was no clear-cut path of where he was going to go after winning the interim championship. He said, I faced the toughest competition this world has to offer for 15 years. During camp for a title defense, I sustained a major injury, etc., etc. Now I have newcomers requesting I get my championship stripped, and he talks about his accolades. There's only ever been one Jon Jones, never forget that. Now, if he really had such a big issue with Tom Aspinall calling for him to be stripped, then really he should have agreed to fight him, or he should have at least talked about it. But instead, he just wants to complain. And it got incredibly worse. He said here when Tom Aspinall said, John, you're letting your ego run wild here, mate. I can't do a Tom Aspinall accent. I'm not downplaying your resume. It's incredible, far superior to mine. You were known as the best fighter ever, and that's exactly why I want to beat you. Surely you can understand that. So Tom Aspinall could have not have been clearer. He wasn't downplaying Jon Jones's accomplishments. He's just saying, look, you're the best, you're the champion, I want to fight you. And Jon Jones says, I mean, it doesn't really work like that. I was a champion when I was 23 years old. You can't show up at age 30 pretending like you've been chasing me your whole life. I have no clue who 90% of your resume is. Meanwhile, I've been highlighting UFC events my entire career. Well, this is deflection number one from Jon Jones, and there are a ton more to go through, because what he's saying is that Tom Aspinall doesn't deserve to fight him just because he doesn't have the resume that Jon Jones has. Well, the question is, how can Tom Aspinall build his resume if the best fighters, or the best fighter here in Jon Jones, won't fight him? Jon Jones saying, I mean, it doesn't really work like that. Desperation galore. And then he further picks apart Tom Aspinall's resume, saying, only 4 recognizable opponents and already the King of England. Must be nice there will be legendary tales told about you and your infamous call-outs. Again, another deflection from Jon Jones. Tom Aspinall never called himself the King of England. He's simply saying, I want to fight you, Jon Jones. And again, Tom Aspinall perfectly articulated himself here. He said, Jon Jones is saying you need to fight people to build your legacy. Me? Great idea, absolutely. The UFC says, hey, do you want to fight Tom? And both Stipe and Jon Jones say no, furthering the point that if Aspinall isn't allowed to fight Jon Jones or the best heavyweights in the world like Stipe Miocic, then how can he build his resume? And then Jon Jones just starts going full victim here, where he says, it's a wild world we live in. People can be so quick to try and replace you, to throw you away, discredit your work. That's the best thing about them stats. He's saying, be an absolute savage at what you do whatever capacity that may be, let the work speak for itself, be undeniable, etc., etc. Absolutely ridiculous, because Tom Aspinall wants to be undeniable by fighting Jon Jones. And Jon Jones is acting like Tom Aspinall wanting to fight him means he's trying to, again, discredit his resume. The fans who want him to fight the best fighters in the world are again trying to rubbish him, and again he's playing victim. He says, oh, you fans want me to be discarded and replaced by somebody else. This isn't fair. The fans just want to see you fight the best of the world. And then he says here, I love how a fighter can do an interview about me every week, make silly memes on the internet, and then when I respond they play the victim role. Ultimate deflection and projection at its finest, because Jon Jones is the one playing the victim here. When, again, Tom Aspinall simply said, I want to fight the best guy in the world. Why can't he be stripped if I'm not able to fight him because he doesn't want to do it? And he's saying, oh, now that I've responded to him, Tom Aspinall is playing victim. Jon Jones has been the one playing victim, as I've broken down tweet by tweet. And then he says here, Tom Aspinall is being a hypocrite, talking about Jones's ego. And he says, you and Sergey Pavlovich have 0 championship fights between your names, etc., etc. Well, again, how can Tom Aspinall have a championship reign if the best guys in the world won't fight him? And again, he's talking about his flawless performance against Cyril Gane. Well, Tom Aspinall had a similar flawless performance against Sergey Pavlovich, but you don't hear him talking about it as much as Jon Jones is talking about his win over Gane. In fact, not even close to as much. And then his final tweet that day was talking about how he is going to, again, fight Stipe for his resume, etc., etc. So that's the last we heard from Jon Jones. Then, out of nowhere, he starts asking fans who they would like to see him fight, Tom Aspinall or Alex Pereira. Alex Pereira, who, again, has always taken on the toughest challenges, has always been interested in fighting Jon Jones, but he did say, look, it would be great for me to get that fight, but we need to see what the UFC does. You know, he understood there's a process to these kind of things. So it's not like Alex Pereira had gone out of his way to demand that fight and Jon Jones was jumping on it. He literally created a scenario out of nowhere where Alex Pereira made more sense than anybody else. And it was completely ridiculous. Because then Jon Jones, who mentioned Tom Aspinall's name, finally only invented more ways to talk about how Tom Aspinall doesn't make sense by propping up Alex Pereira and retweeting fans who agree with him. It's a very, very blatant, obvious tactic of Jon Jones to try to make it appear that the fans want to see the same thing that he does, which is Alex Pereira, who is a favourable matchup, rather than fight Tom Aspinall. So he shows that he is actually prepared to fight somebody else other than Stipe Miocic, but it's not Tom Aspinall. Could the ducking be any more blatant here? It's one thing to talk about how you want to fight an opponent because they do something big for your resume, but to go out of your way to say, oh, this fight means so much. I mean, think of what it will do for them. I mean, he's such a great fighter. I want to fight him. Jon Jones is nothing but patronizing and incredibly smug towards Tom Aspinall, but suddenly he's got all these accolades and all this praise for Alex Pereira. Again, very, very clever deflection ducking tactic from Jones. And now he's just said what we already knew to be true, which is he doesn't want anything to do with Tom Aspinall. He's going to fight Stipe Miocic. The other thing is that Tom Aspinall made it even more clear when he found a way to walk up on Jon Jones, and you could tell Jon Jones was intimidated. He was scared of Tom Aspinall. Look at the way he pushed Tom Aspinall's hand away from him. Suddenly, Jon Jones, who again has all these accolades later on for Alex Pereira, all this praise for him, and as well as Stipe Miocic, he suddenly gets really annoyed with Tom Aspinall walking up on him. And not even being rude. Tom Aspinall's being very respectful. He's saying, hey mate, let's get it on. Champion against champion. And you can tell Jon Jones was not only bothered because his ego was being attacked, but he was also intimidated because he has got nothing to say to the man who walked up to him, challenged him face to face very respectfully, other than, well, it doesn't make sense for made-up reason number 1 to made-up reason number 1,000. I have never seen this level of ducking from a top-level fighter. Jon Jones is scared of Tom Aspinall. And I hope I've broken it down enough for you guys in this video. Let me know what you guys think. If there's anything I've missed, drop it down below. And I noticed there are a lot of people who believe Jon Jones isn't ducking Tom Aspinall. Again, I don't see it that way, but let me know what you guys think. I'm always open to hear other people's opinions. As long as everybody is respectful, always happy to hear it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. As always, I'll catch you later.